Welcome to the Uppercent Web3 School, which is a part of the Uppercent University, which is a 4-week program where you can learn how to become the best version of yourself, learn from Web3 leaders, and earn daily crypto rewards at the same time. To learn more about the Uppercent University, visit the link in the description of this video. Now, without further ado, let's get into episode 3 of the Web3 School, where we will be discussing how you can grow in Web3 with seasoned Web3 CMO and startup founder, Emily Dallara, the CEO of Payan. Emily, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I've had a good Easter, and now I'm recharged and ready to keep building in Web3. What about you?
Brilliant. Yeah, we had an amazing Easter. We're in south of France. Well, we can argue where I am. North of the south in Lyon. Everybody says it's not the south, but it is. And it's lots, like the weather's really nice. It's like 22 degrees most days above that, and we go hiking, we go to the river. Lots of outdoor stuff.
Sounds better than here, where we get literally no sun, as you can see.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Emily, look, thank you very much for joining today. I really appreciate it. I know you've got a lot of value and wisdom to share. You've been around this industry for a long time. So yeah, please just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Emily Rose Dallara. I am a coach and I'm founder of Web3 and Thrive. It's a podcast and it's also a coaching company. So I help people in Web3, specifically leaders, to thrive without the burnout. I'm also founder of Payant, which is a tool that you can use to get paid on time. I've been in the Web3 space for 7 years now. I started out at Bitcoin.com and I was a marketing leader for the last 7 years before I pivoted into coaching and building my own businesses.
That's really useful. My next question actually was going to be, how did you get into Web3? So I know you've been in here for 7 years now, which is an awfully long time compared to most people. But yeah, how did it actually start out? How did you get into Web3?
So in 2015, I was in Bali in a there was a co-working space in Ubud, and if you've been to Bali, you'll know this place. I know maybe it's closed now. Anyway, it was called Ubud, and they used to accept payment for their membership in crypto, in Bitcoin. And so I went to a workshop, like, what is this Bitcoin thing? And they were like, oh, well, you know, if you pay for this, you're not going to pay transaction fees, and it's good if you're working remotely. I was like, amazing, I'll have some Bitcoin. So I bought my own Bitcoin. You could buy it with the ATM there, like $10. And I paid for my co-working fees there. And then it wasn't, and so I was aware of it, and everybody was talking about it, and it was just like a thing, a tool that we were using. It wasn't necessarily an investment then. I didn't see it like that then. I saw it as a resource. And then 2016, I met Matt from Bitcoin.com. And back then, Bitcoin.com was one of the biggest companies. It was like Bitcoin.com and Kraken. It was just before Coinbase was getting big. And so I worked with Roger, who was the founder of Bitcoin.com, and he was at the time Bitcoin Jesus. And he brought me on board to help market the podcast initially. And then I marketed their cloud mining, then their casino, then their events and everything. So I ended up managing all of the marketing and building out the team there. And then in 2018, there was the hash wars, and that caused it was like the first bear market that I'd experienced. And so it caused the whole market to tumble, which then put me in a position where there wasn't a job anymore because the company had run out of money, and I had to start paving my own way in Web3, well, crypto back then. And so, yeah, that's how I got into the space.
That's really interesting. I've never heard how it actually started, but you were early. 2015 is early, and it's weird that you came in on an actual use case of Bitcoin in terms of to pay for your fees because of all the amazing reasons why, such as global payment, instant transactions, so on and so on. So that's really cool. So that's 2018. You have come out of that. You're no longer working there. Between then and now, what's happened? And more importantly, what are you working on right now?
Yeah, so during that time, actually, when I was with Bitcoin.com, because the space was quite new and small, we all knew each other. So I became I was not an influencer by any means, but I knew everyone. Everyone knew everybody. So it wasn't difficult to find a job. But at the time, I was like, I don't want a job. I've worked for Bitcoin.com. Bitcoin is freedom, and it gives you a choice, and you're able to do whatever you want wherever you want, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to work for myself. Yeah, it gives you like a new sense of like, I can literally do anything. And so luckily I'd had money. I got paid in crypto since 2016. And I set up a company with Akane Yuku, who was an actual influencer back then. She'd hate if I said that now, but she was like Roger's right-hand girl at the time for adoption of crypto in Japan. And so we were in Japan and Tokyo, and you can pay in many places in Roppongi area in crypto. So we were there hustling, speaking at loads of different events, and we actually set up one of the first e-commerce platforms for crypto. And that was called Peaceful Warrior, and we rebranded to Hyper, HYPPR back in the day. And we were testing the idea of helping smaller boutique shops in Asia, Southeast Asia, because that's where I lived, to accept payments online, because a lot of them couldn't get banks. And so we were accepting crypto for them and cashing it out for them in fiat, because in Vietnam, there's a special tool that you can use called Cash2VN. That's basically a remittance service. So we were using them as a third party to help them get money in cash. So we built this like one of these first ever, I guess, e-commerce sites that accepted crypto. So yeah, and so with the e-commerce platform, we had no money, we had no funding behind it. So we were like, okay, this is just for fun. Actually, in the end, I think we were too early. Not many people were that interested in accepting crypto, only a few of the companies that we knew in the area. And so that was fun while it lasted. And then I started working with the first kind of medium on the blockchain. So they were called Honest Cash, and they were building like medium with tipping, like integration on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain at the time, for tipping and accepting what else, like paywalls and stuff. So it was the first kind of solution like that. And so we were just going like that, like helping startups do things, like do cool stuff. So like anything we were interested in, we were just going and consulting. So we did a lot of events actually. And then in the end, I think we did that for about a year, like this trial and error. What do we want to do? What are we good at when it comes to helping businesses in this space? And then I met the team at Liquid, who were a really big Asian exchange at the time. They're completely obliterated now, but then they had a really high exchange volume, and they were like one of the most I would say respected institutional exchanges in Southeast Asia. So I went and worked with those guys as their head of global marketing. And that was actually Roger from Bitcoin.com was actually an investor. And I used to run events in Saigon for crypto people, so like crypto meetups. And so Roger used to come to the Liquid offices. We used to run it from there and come and support us, which was really nice. So we were doing loads of events all the time and really understanding what were the difficulties for people working in leadership roles in teams in Web3, what was wrong with the marketing, what was wrong with the UX, and finding solutions. Like we were literally just going around solving everything. And I worked with the most amazing product manager called Marek, and he's helping me with Payout as well. And he taught me everything I know about product. He helped me to write user stories, product specifications, everything, so I could help him better. And we built the most amazing onboarding series for Liquid. And the retention rate when we first joined Liquid, well, I'm saying when I first joined Liquid, was below 10%. Like they were literally falling off a cliff as soon as they joined. And we managed to increase it to like 60% or above, I think, at some months. So it was really fun working there. And then I kept getting picked up by other exchanges because I was full-time at Liquid, but then other exchanges were like, we see what you've done at Liquid. And I was like, maybe I can actually go and do this and like replicate the model and do it again and again. And that's what I did. So I went with 3 other exchanges in Asia. I worked with OKX as well, did the same thing with them, helped to train their team and build their product marketing team. And then I was like, you know what, I need a new challenge. I haven't tapped into the DeFi industry yet. So I was picked up by a portfolio company in Dubai, and I went and helped them to build teams. So it was a lot of fractional work. So jumping into teams, helping them to build marketing teams, understanding how they can keep their teams moving forward, remove blockers for them, coach them a bit. And then obviously we entered the bear market again. So this is like, it's always cyclical. We entered the bear market again. I got laid off again. But to be honest, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I realized that I didn't want to be in marketing anymore. I was so over it, and I've been doing it for 13 years now. I started in the tech industry when I was younger, like in my 20s, well, 19 actually. And so I was like, okay, it's time for a change. And so I requalified. I hired my own coach firstly. I needed a business coach to help me understand what to do now. And then I did my coaching qualification, my AAC. And then I started coaching and building a business. And on top of that, I built Web3 and Thrive. So Web3 and Thrive is the umbrella brand. I have the podcast, which is for people working in Web3 to help them thrive in all aspects, because it's really hard working in Web3 and crypto. And then I coach people primarily. That's what I do most of my days. And it's people who are leading big companies. So either they're CMOs, CEOs, they're heads of departments, they're directors, and they just need help. They need a guide. They need someone to help them get unstuck. They need to work through imposter syndrome. They need someone to make sure that they don't fall into that spiral of burnout. And so I help them build the tools that they need, like internally, help them become self-accountable so they don't need anybody else moving forward. So that's what I do now. And on top of that, I also have another company called Payont, like I mentioned. And the reason I built this is because whilst I've been consulting all these years in Web3, I'd struggled to get paid so many times. And every time I entered a new contract, I was like, wait, how much deposit do I need to ask from these guys? Because I know what history I've had with getting paid. And I've had to chase like 50,000 euros or dollars, I guess you would say, in the past. And I was just so over worrying if I was actually going to get paid on time or not. And I was like, I'm sure there's a solution. So in my travels in Web3, I picked up a few really great contacts. And so I found an infrastructure provider that I really trusted who'd already built an escrow flow, like in terms of the technology. No one's taken it and built it as a product. And so they let me use their infrastructure to build Payont. And now we've got this escrow solution for freelancers, contractors, marketing agencies, creator agencies, anyone really who needs to guarantee that they're going to get paid on time.
I didn't realize you did so much.
That's why you can never schedule me in.
No, I literally didn't realize. I thought that you were quite easy. You took your Mondays and your Fridays off and did a little bit of work.
They're work days.
They're tired life.
Oh no, they're Mondays and Fridays of focus work.
I've got you. No, I'm only pulling your leg. Cool. So with all of that going on, what are your like core goals? Like, give me like your top 3 or top 5 core goals in Web3. Like, what are you trying to achieve there?
Okay, so my absolute mission right now, and I don't know if you've seen this, but I have a new initiative called Web3 Leadership Day. And the mission is to take leadership in Web3 to the next level, to develop a guideline and framework for other leaders to live by, basically. So what it is the way it's starting actually is we have a Web3 Leadership Day on June the 1st, and it's a collection of people, so leaders, thought leaders, influential people in the space, and we're coming together and we're doing a roundtable in 2 weeks' time to understand what do we need to start these guidelines. And I'm working with someone called Bridget Greenwood, who runs the Bigger Pie community, and she's working with UC Berkeley to set guidelines for diversity and inclusion. So she's going to come on board and bring her ideas. I'm working with Nova Lorraine, who's a serial entrepreneur in the space. We've got Maria Kay from Near Foundation. We've got Chrissy Hill from Parity. So we're all coming together and we're going to have a great big chat about how can we start helping other people have a better experience in this space so we don't lose amazing talent all the time. So that's like the goal right now, is to like improve leadership.
Brilliant. So just let's focus on that a little bit more as well. So you're obviously very passionate about making sure that there's good leaders in the space. So what would your advice be for, or core bits of advice for Web3 leaders, or just generally people working in Web3? Like, what would your like top bits of advice be for these sort of people?
Work on your mind first. Understand that this industry is going to do its thing. It's upside down at all times. But if you've worked on your mindset and understood your values, how you want to show up, that's step 1 to being a good leader. And then step 2 is putting your team first and yourself behind them as a support. And really understanding that you do need, as a leader, to buffer your teams from the chaos that can be Web3.
Yeah, it's pretty chaotic sometimes, especially when there's
Oh
just
yeah,
this huge market behind it, right? Like you mentioned,
exactly.
you were unfortunate in two bear markets, and I'm sure that loads of other people were as
Oh
well.
yeah,
But you've also got the
normal.
tips of being a founder as well, right? So
Mhm.
that's your tips to people that are kind of working in Web3. What about people that
Yes.
are founders in Web3? What tips do you have for these people?
When you're a founder in Web3, you need to have your blinkers on at all times because, and this is in general as a founder, like you know as well, Jake, you get self-doubt creeping in, especially if you've had failures in the past. Like I wouldn't say I've had failures, I would say I've had learning experiences. But
Good way to look at
self-doubt, yeah, and self-doubt comes in every day, right? You could be having an amazing day and then suddenly you'll have like some kind of flashback or your brain will like remind you of something that's a bit skewed and you'll be like, okay, no, I'm too scared, I'm not good enough to do this, I'll be a success, right? I get it all the time. But as long as you are able to understand what triggers you, understand how to work on it, and get guidance. Like, this is why I always say every founder needs a coach, because how can you possibly succeed on your own?
It's a
You
good
need someone
question.
to remind
It's
you.
historical, but yeah, it's a good question.
Mhm. Yeah, like you need your mentors. Like, even mentors are amazing, but the thing with mentors is, number one, you're not paying them for the time most of the time, so they're not as accountable to help you. And two, they're sharing their own experience. They're not helping you understand how to break through different areas of your thought patterns. Like, for example, a lot of the time with my clients, they have a lot of the time actually it's scarcity, which is driven by fear of not having enough, and it's not feeling good enough, which again goes back to scarcity. Okay, a lot of it goes back to a fear of being without something. And so you have to help them work through that, understand what their brain is doing, and understand that they are the only people who can change and get out of their own way to be successful.
Yeah, I agree, and again, I relate to a lot of those points you mentioned as well. Um, so yeah, that's the founder side and the
Mm-hmm.
people side. What about what it takes to, in your opinion, to make a good company in Web3? A company that's going to sit here, it's not going to fail in the bear markets, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
last, it's going to build something that people use forever and ever. What's your advice for people trying to make that happen?
I would say instead of focusing on what everyone else is doing, focus on the problem that you're trying to solve. Like, a lot of companies in Web3 really focus on this great big vision that they've got, right? There's lots of visionaries in this space without thinking, okay, is this actually going to make money? If I've raised capital and I've managed to convince loads of investors to give me money, how is that going to turn into revenue quickly, right? And a lot of people spend so much time focusing on the MVP, but they don't actually focus on their MVB, like minimal viable business, that actually will get them in cash and capital so they can continue to pay everyone. That's step one, is like having a business model. And step two is understanding your actual users. So when I first went into the exchange space, I realized really quickly that all they were thinking about was institutional traders using their tool as an API, right? They'd never actually really sat down and thought about the experience of the retail user who would be using the product on a desktop or a phone, right? And so understanding the pain points of these people in depth is the most important thing. And it's something that still this industry struggles with because they try and sell dreams versus an actual business and an actual experience.
You're spot on. I mean, we've
Mm-hmm.
had this conversation many a
Oh
time
yeah.
off, like many a time offline. It's so true. There are numerous projects that have sold digital assets, whether it be tokens or non-fungible tokens, and it's on this concept of what they're going to build in the future. They haven't actually built anything yet. They probably even have, put thought into the sustainability of their business. And I think that's especially with Uppercent, the main thing I've been focused on is looking at it as a normal company, because so
Exactly.
many people come into this space, build a startup, and think things are done differently because it's Web3. In terms of
Exactly.
having a viable business model that generates revenue and makes money so that you can survive, that doesn't change. Just because there's these new mechanisms to raise loads of money, there's going to be a time when that dries up, and there's going to be a time when that
Exactly.
when the true colors of what you've built are shown. And if you don't focus on trying to build that sustainable company, then you're going to be in a pretty dire position. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think we both very much see eye to eye on that point.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think as well, if there was another kind of, for companies to be successful, it goes again back to leadership, building sustainable teams who know how to be a success or know how to manage different personality types, know how to build teams. What you find usually is, and I did a podcast show about all the different personalities of leaders in this space, they hire the people who are the same as them. So you'll get these young founders who have got like SBF, who've got a shit ton of capital coming in, and they're like, wow, if I do this and I get a shit ton of money, let's do it again. And let's hire people who do what I want them to do, or they have the same mentality as me and don't challenge me, so we can keep doing this. And then that just leads to a spiral, and then it all implodes. So this is one of the big key. This is why I'm so obsessed with leadership, because it's like, why have we not learned from Web 2? Why does it have to be different in Web 3?
And that's the sentence. Why does it need to be different in Web3? That alone speaks to so many different situations that companies are facing in Web3. It doesn't need to be different is the straight answer to that one.
Exactly. And it's like, sorry, I was just going to say, and it's like all these layoffs, right, in the tech industry, not having liquidity, and the way that tech companies could have solved it, like the banks going down. They could have utilized Web3 technology. They could have utilized different assets to store their capital, right? But then in terms of the layoffs in Web3, they could learn from Web2 businesses who build sustainable businesses. So we can learn from each other.
We do need to. I think it's a good comparison. But what I want to learn from you as well is, I know you said you're kind of like past the marketing side now, but you've obviously grown various different types of companies in this space. So again, the same sort of thing, like someone's set up a Web3 company, or they're working for a Web3 company, they want to grow it. What are your like core kind of bits of advice?
So hire the right people, step one, and hire people who actually understand what they need to be doing, set expectations, and understand what is going to make you money first, and focus all the attention and effort on that. Test everything all the time. Like, I think in this space, people throw a lot of money at like thin air, and for example, they'll hire big agencies who don't fully understand how to make money, and they will give you influencers, they'll give you sponsored tweets, they'll give you sponsored PRs. That's not going to make you the money that you need. It's going to give you awareness, and that's about it, right? It takes a lot more than awareness to build relationships and get actual paying users. So step one is like, understand your sales funnel, understand how you're going to actually get people through the door and stick with them, and how to build trust, because there's no trust in this industry. People don't trust anyone anymore. So if you know how to build trust, if you're solving a problem, if you know how to hire people, when it comes to marketing, again, it's all about testing, like, Jake. But that was always my kind of motto, was test, because if you fail, it's a learning experience. And so when I was building teams with Liquid, I feel like Liquid was like one of the most amazing experiences for me, because I had the most insane team. Like, they were so efficient and so productive, and I feel like that was partly down to my leadership, but also down to the fact that they knew exactly why they were doing something, and I gave them this space to be creative and to test without the pressure of, what if we fail? Well, if we do fail, we learn and we keep moving and we try the next thing that's on the list, right? So I think that's more, it's more like, you can't just throw money at things without a plan.
I think this links back to the whole topic of this conversation, basically, which is, you are not going to make it if you do not know how to build a good team in Web3. And that's basically what it comes down to in every, whether it's advice for startup founders, advice for companies, advice on growth, everything has led back to one commonality, which is, if you don't have a great team of high achievers that fit the right roles with good leadership, it doesn't matter. Like, you're not going to be able to succeed in this space. So
it's also because a lot of people I know will be like, well, I don't have the money to hire all these good people, right? And also, I'm bootstrapping, and so I'm funding all of the businesses. Well, Web3 and Thrive doesn't need funding, but paying for all the development from my own capital. And so I'm like, well, I can't afford the best hires, right? I can't afford exactly who I want, but I know what else I can hire. So you have to understand, you need to learn, you've got to understand the skill set and the task that needs to be done really specifically, because that's where you start failing. You'll bring someone on, you want set the expectations, you don't understand what a success is, and then that's when you fall up when you're hiring, when you're first starting out. And so I've hired people to do a specific job, and I got them from a recommendation. I would never hire someone if I didn't know if they were good or not in terms of what they do as a task.
The point that was really strong there, and I found this too, because again, we are a startup. I can't go out and hire Jeff Bezos to come in as CEO. It's just that's no amount of money is going to make that happen. But you get the point. But you're right. You're not going to be able to get the best talent that are fully self-sufficient, that can just go on and just kill it for you. You're going to have to hire people and be so directional, and give them so much guidance and help to make sure you get the end product you're looking for. So I completely get that point.
And people don't want to do that. They don't want to sit and be patient. And sometimes they just expect this person that they're hiring to know exactly what they need. But it's up to you as a leader to learn how to write briefs, how to write product specifications, how to communicate clearly what you need. That's usually one of the biggest problems.
Agreed. So Emily, what do you think the future of Web3 holds? We've seen the last 7 years, or well, you have anyway. I've been here for nearly 6 years now, so not quite as long as you.
Too far off.
Not too far off. But yeah, what do you think the future, the next stages, the next market, the next big thing in Web3 is going to be?
I think we're going to be more focused on the things that solve problems. Like we always go back to, it's either innovation or solving problems. And so, yeah, application of the technology. And also, I think we're going to see much more of it used in humanitarian cases. Like when I was with Bitcoin.com, we did a big initiative in Venezuela to help them flee the country with all of their savings intact in crypto. I think we're going to see more of that happening. NFTs, that's going to stay because it's helping the creator market. But I think we're going to see real use cases like social media utilizing it, for example.
Uppercent.
Yeah, Uppercent as well.
You got to say it. You're here. You got to say it. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's how it's going to go. I think the stuff with the metaverse is going to be beneficial for events, gaming. I'm not sure if I'm totally on board with this fashion thing at the moment. I understand supply chain. I understand that that's going to be beneficial. I'm not sure if I want to be stood in there as an avatar in the metaverse, like putting clothes on and stuff. It's not really my target audience. It might fit the Gen Zs and the alphas.
Sure. So out of all of this, what's the most exciting thing? So that's what you think is going to happen. Is there anything there that really stands out? Like, I literally cannot sleep at night because I want to see this happen.
I think it's just this opportunity to like develop something new completely. Like, we've already developed what is leadership in Web2. Like, it always goes back to leadership and helping people. In Web2, we've kind of done it. Now we've got a chance to reiterate it. It's like we're doing something fresh, and we've got a new opportunity. We've got a new chance to try something. That's what's exciting. And the second thing is the helping people, being able to be able to serve the people that we couldn't reach before, maybe like giving other people opportunities. And for example, I pay all my developers in crypto because they can't accept the fiat, right? I'm able to give opportunities to other people because of this. That's what I like about it.
That's very nice. That's a good way to end. I think that's a real good reason. I'm completely on board with that as well. So, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on, Emily. You took a completely different spin to like what I normally have when like people come on. Like we spoke a lot, quite deeply about points that we haven't really touched on the Web3 school before, like leadership and people, and like taking a different look at what success is gonna, or what's going to make up success in this industry. So I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing those points. So
thank you. Very welcome.
If people want to learn more about you, Emily, what can they do?
They can go over to LinkedIn, Emily Rose Dallara. LinkedIn is my channel. I have my podcast, Web3 and Thrive, on all the different podcasting channels, wherever you get your podcast. You can get me, Emily in Web3, on all social media, wherever you want to look, I'm there. And then I've got payont.io. So if you want to go, if you're a freelancer, if you're a marketer, you want to get paid on time, go and sign up for the waitlist on payont.io.
But I will also leave Emily's LinkedIn link in the description, so you can go and check her out and connect with her. She's very friendly. She doesn't bite, so go and connect with her. But yeah, Emily, thank you once again for joining. And yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing building, not quite directly together, but building both founders, trying to make something special happen in this space.
Definitely. Thank you so much.